Welcome back. Let me introduce you to the front pages. Unity Walk not part of Boche's recommendation, according to the Today newspaper, and cop in trouble over 10,000 Ghana cedis. Chop. Stay healthy and safe, according to the First Lady. She's saying this to mothers. And reinstate Deputy Sports Minister Domahine appeals. The Independent says government will create assets from oil revenues, according to President Akufo-Addo, and act responsibly. Stay healthy and safe. First Lady to mothers. The Finder says more youth contract HIV in 2017, but prevalence rate, pregnant women declined. Government to use oil cash to create assets, according to the president. And Kufuor blames unprepared leaders for Ghana's underdevelopment. SEC warns public against investing in 10 companies under investigation. The Daily Heritage this morning says Mahama easy to beat. Wontumi brags wants Akufo-Addo Mahama 2020 bout. And Amnesty International explains stance on UEW Brohaha. Government issues 410,000 to stop sale of Ganasco cars. And maybe finally, the Daily Statement says Second Lady launches project to reduce maternal mortality in the celebration of Mother's Day. And investor confidence in Ghana rising as government raises unprecedented $2 billion euro bond and oil revenue to transform economy, according to the president. My guest this morning, we're expecting Felix Kwachio-Fosu, is a former deputy communications minister, but in studio with me at this point is lawyer Ejapa Mesa Andrew. He is the MP for Second D in the Western region. Obo, welcome. Good morning.
Thank
How
you,
you doing?
brother.
How did the weekend go?
Well, I was out of town briefly.
I see.
Over the weekend.
Mother's Day too. We celebrated Mother's Day.
Well, my mom is out of town.
Okay.
Of course, my kids celebrated their mother.
Okay.
You know, so we went to church together.
I like that.
I have strict limits for defining Mother's Day.
Okay.
I don't think my wife is my mother.
It's okay.
You know, so my kids,
they celebrated their mother. You already
and I
celebrated. Okay,
my
your
mom.
mother
I
as well.
spoke to her.
Okay.
You know, and of course there are several other mothers that I have in my life.
Right.
You know, it was a pretty interesting day yesterday.
I see. Let's start off. The president has spoken last Saturday. He was at a London business school, and he was talking about the fact that the oil revenue must be used to transform the economy, particularly in the funding of the free SHS. He believes that, well, we are fairly new entrants, but we must be able to use our oil funds judiciously, not to end up in people's pockets. What's your initial reaction to this particular? Because I'm asking because it's become like a rhetoric. 10 years ago or so, I remember when the oil came up, President Kufuor at the time said, President Mills repeated, and we're still down the same lane. Is this anything that will inspire hope, this speech?
Well, before I begin, let me just say good morning to cherished viewers this morning, and also to take this opportunity to commend His Excellency the Vice President, Acting President of the Republic, for the enormous work that he did in relation to the review of the mobile interoperability system, such that this country has been saved a whopping $996 million. Because you recall that our brothers in the NDC awarded a contract to Sipton for about $1 billion for the setting up of the mobile interoperability system. Subsequently, following the change in government, His Excellency the Vice President led a team that reviewed the entire process, and he has successfully led the implementation rollout at a cost of $4 million. Tells you
That's been contested.
Well, I've heard people.
I want us to have that conversation when Felix arrives. So let's kickstart what the president said. When Felix arrives, we'll set the tone for that conversation, so you can raise your issues, he raises the issues, and then we can respond appropriately.
Very
to
well.
it. Right.
It will be very, very useful for the benefit of our viewers this morning.
Right.
Yes, His Excellency the President amply stated over the weekend that he believes that we should not allow ourselves to go the route that gold did to this country, where we basically exported raw material that did not necessarily have the needed impact, or did not make the needed impact in terms of our development agenda. And that he believes that industrialization is the way to go, and that this new discovery that we, Ghana, have made, relatively young entrants in the oil space, should invest in the processing of our oil industry or petrocarbons by setting up petrochemical industry in this country, so that we'll create the needed jobs that would drive our economic growth. And of course, he indicated that in so doing, we necessarily need to also develop our manpower.
Right.
And that he thinks that as a country, the most useful investment that we can make, in addition to all the things that we are doing in our industrialization space, is to invest in our human capacity. And so we're going to use some of our oil revenue to fund the free SHS education that every single corner of this country is benefiting. I think that it is the most equitable deployment of that natural resource that the good Lord himself has gifted to this country. And I think it's in the right direction.
But this is not the first time we have heard something like this. In fact, previous presidents before our current president have said a similar thing. Some analysts have said we are suffering from the Dutch disease, where we are now focusing just on the oil, like we did when we had cocoa, like we did when we had gold and other resources. What do you think about that as well?
Well, His Excellency President Akufo did not have the benefit of commercial production of oil. It is Prof. Mills, of blessed memory, who had the benefit of commercial production of oil. And of course, the immediate past president, Mr. Mahama.
Right.
I think they commenced some work in that regard. Of course, we all know the Ghana gas processing plant that was set up essentially to process our the associated gas liquids at Atwabo. Of course, beyond that, not much was done. His Excellency has clearly indicated that we're going to set up a gas feedstock in the western region to drive our industrialization agenda. And I know on authority that a fertilizer plant is in the works that clearly is going to deploy some of our gas to, as it were, manufacture the urea that is needed in the manufacture of fertilizer. So yes, there's been talk in the past. Some action has been taken, not significant, but clearly this is a government that is intended on walking the talk. And so I have every confidence that what His Excellency the President communicated over the weekend is something that will see the light of day before his tenure ends in 2020.
In the interest of funding free SHS, you know that at the time when free SHS was about to be rolled out last year in September, the Heritage Fund came up. The Heritage Fund will be a residue of our oil revenue, which is stored in trust for future generations. Now we're getting a double of the numbers that are already there in free SHS, because one system is ended. Once we begin the new term, we'll have double, maybe 900,000 more adding on. So that will be some 1.8 or so. What's the plan? Do we know in terms of the utilization of the oil fund or revenue to fund the free SHS? What's the plan? Do we know?
Well, I have always wondered why people question the government's ability to fund the program.
Are the concerns more genuine where in terms of the delivery of the cash?
I don't think so. You see,
there being a few bottlenecks.
Johnny, we manage a pot of resources. The people have voted for a government to, as it were, based on a manifesto promise to utilize the resources that the people have given to the government in a certain manner.
Okay.
We have an X amount of money. We say that, look, going forward as a country, we cannot afford to allow 90,000 Ghanaian children to drop off annually. Because in 10 years, you'll be getting 900,000 Ghanaian children who really are not prepared for any meaningful work out of school. So we will deploy part of the resources out of the X to educate those people to at least SHS 3.
Is there a resource there?
Why is the resource not there? What's the component of the free SHS from our total revenue in 2017? So I'm up to 5%. So it's essentially what the government chooses to do. One will choose to engage SITCOM for a $1 billion contract that ends up being done for $4 million. Another says, look, I would rather educate the children of this country. You say it cannot be done. I just don't get it.
That the monies that were expected by the schools to handle some of the things that were promised, for example, food, accommodation, dining, and other issues, had become topical conversations. Are there no genuine concerns?
We can have concerns about the implementation. And of course, we all live in this country. We all know of the challenges that were associated with the initial rollout of the free SHS program.
Right.
And nobody is going to deny that it was incident free. Of course. Because we all heard it. We all saw it in the newspapers. But are they recurring? And even if they do, are they not being addressed? Of course, with every program, it's possible that there may be some hiccups here and there. But the commitment to fund this thing is there. And various sums of money come into the pot, including our oil revenue, including receipts from gold and other things, including tax. And government is saying that, look, all the amounts that come into the pot, I'm prepared to dedicate a certain quantum to educate our children. The naysayers say it's not possible, cannot be done. It's going to cripple the economy, it's going to do also. It's just realignment of your priorities. And if government deems the free SHS as a top priority, and he has demonstrated clearly that it is, I fail to see how anybody would conjecture that there will not be funding for the project. I don't get it.
You think that people are just being naysayers for the sake of it?
Just for the sake of it. Pure politics. That's what it is. Because, well, they wish they could do it. They had other priorities. And so, lip service to it, did something that had the semblance of free SHS, which clearly was not. And this government is committed to do it. And it is doing it. So, look, you earn an income at the end of the month. It's as if they make it seem as if some resources ought to be conjured from some place to fund the project. Government is giving resources by the people. Just like you and I earn a salary from work.
Right.
You can choose to either invest in a property, buy a land, develop, or spend every weekend at Afrikiko.
It's a matter of choice.
Absolutely. Out of the X amount of money that comes to you, you choose to deploy it in the manner that is befitting. This government is saying that in the allocation of this resource, the education of our children is paramount. And so I'm going to put sufficient sums of money that is given to me to fund that activity. You say it cannot be done. I mean, what does it mean?
All right, I thank you very much. And you can join us with your comments, 050-823-5228. That's our WhatsApp line. We're still expecting Felix Kwachu-Fosu. He's a former deputy communications minister in the erstwhile administration. He will speak on behalf of the NDC. But in studio with me is Andrew Ejapa Mesa. He is with the NPP. He's the second D MP on behalf of the NPP. Now, the former President Rawlings says the NDC is in disarray. It cannot win power in 2020. Is talking, and I want to tie that in with a front page of one of the papers where Mr. Akufo-Addo is quoted as saying, or today's newspaper, that the unity walk is not part of the Professor Abotre recommendation. So the former President Jerry Rawlings, page 3 of the Daily Guide, says former President Rawlings has fired another salvo, insisting that even if the opposition National Democratic Congress is keen on the New Patriotic Party government on its keeping on the New Patriotic Party government on its toes, it's failing woefully to put its house in order ahead of the 2020 general elections and beyond. Mr. Rawlings said recent happenings in the NDC are showing that the party has found it is heavily divided, and until they solve their differences, they can't win power. According to him, the party is not unified, not in touch with the grassroots, and it did not inspire confidence in the electorate during the run-up to the last elections, and called on the party to re-embrace its core values of truth, integrity, probity, and accountability. I get worried when I hear things like this because why
are you a member of the NDC?
No, because we are more than a year away from the next election.
Yeah,
and it looks as if the elections have come up too quickly. For example, look on the front page of the Daily Heritage as well. Wuntumi says Mahama is easy to beat, and I get worried when I hear some of these things. It looks as if we're jumping the gun, and we're always in a campaign mode, really.
Well, I guess that the saying goes that the next election commences immediately after the one that's just held. I mean, I've always seen the NDC as being in campaign mode from 7th January 2017.
They have seen the MPP in similar light.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's bad. Yeah, it's what they choose to do with their time, really. Is their own business.
Okay.
With respect to what the former President Rawlings is saying, I mean, he is a member of the party. He, in fact, is the founder of the party, according to them. And if he
is that in doubt, his foundership, is it in doubt?
Well, per my understanding of the Constitution and the political party's law, one individual cannot found a political party.
Okay, I hear
but
you.
They say that he's their founder.
But the party is not for you.
But that's what I'm saying. They, I cannot speak for them.
Right.
And it's, not in doubt that that is the mantra that they've always carried around.
Right.
The description that has been given to him is the founder of their party.
Wrap up for me. Let me introduce Felix.
So if he himself is indicating clearly that their party is in disarray and that there's a lot of disunity in spite of the so-called unity walk that they are organizing across the country, I mean, I fail to see how that in itself helps their cause, because we are told in this country when we had the issues with Mr. Foko and Kwabena Japan and co, kinds of things that they threw at us, they were the most unified party that had ever existed on planet Earth. Yet, immediately after the loss of they losing the election, they embark on unity walk across the country. To unify a party that is already united goes on unity walk. So it's not surprising that you hear comments like the one coming from my own brother, Akufo-Addo, that this unity walk is not part of the Abotre report recommendations.
Is it hurting the party? The numbers come out.
For me,
they come out to support. It shows that the party is strong. Indeed, is it not?
They can tickle themselves if they think that the numbers that they see at their unity walks is an indication of their electoral chances in 2020. That's up to them.
Thank you. Felix Kwachu-Fosu is a former Deputy Minister for Communications.
Good morning, my brother.
Felix, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Let me
red shirt you have there.
Thank you.
You want to take a bite quickly on that one?
Yes. Let me apologize for my uncharacteristic lateness. I misjudged the traffic situation.
I know you're always
exactly.
I know.
Yeah. First of all, I'm not too sure what it is that we are on about here. Look, there's hardly any human organization in which you will not find disagreements. I would be very surprised if there's any organization in this world, any institution that is populated by human beings that has not got differences in opinion. I am sure that even in your production team this morning, you disagreed on one thing or the other.
Of course, we always
about
do.
How to produce this program and how to
Editorial
present it.
policy,
Absolutely.
right.
So for me, that is not an issue. But anybody who thinks that the NDC is such a divided entity will be deluding himself. And I'm also surprised that my brother, Honorable Mesa,
So what's the purpose of the unity walks then?
No, but I think that we've explained time without number.
Okay.
That look, we lost an election. There was a need to instill a sense of confidence in our grassroots. There was a need to whip up enthusiasm. And by all means, because of the loss, out of pain and disappointment, there were bound to be, if you like, disagreements and tiffs between various members of the party. You recall that immediately after the Kwesi Committee report was released, the Council of Elders of the party embarked on a healing tour.
Absolutely.
They traveled the length and breadth of this country to speak to groups and individuals who had one grievance or the other.
Right.
That has been done. Indeed, it is a reason why when we go on these walks, people come out in the enthusiastic fashion that they do.
Okay.
Again, we have
He
been
says that's just tickling yourself.
but how is it tickling ourselves and laughing? Why? They who descended into bloodshed didn't tickle themselves and laugh. They still won elections by the biggest margin that they have ever recorded. On this very program, we discussed at length how the MPP party had been torn asunder by violence. People died, at least 2 people died in the melee that ensued because of disagreements in their party. Their party headquarters became the staging post of violent confrontations. That has not happened in the NDC. We have not recorded incidents like that in the NDC. And people say that we should count ourselves as a divided party. That is going nowhere.
This is from no mean person.
You see, it does not matter who is saying it. The objective reality must persist. The facts must be spoken to.
So the founder is wrong?
Look, the NDC is made up of millions of supporters.
But this is the founder of
I'm
the party.
saying that it is not out of place for people to share opinions that do not necessarily reflect. You see, Johnny, stop boasting about the founder. In 2011, the founder's wife contested the sitting president for the very first time in her history. She lost by a miserable 97%. You understand the point I'm making? So it is not the first time that there will be disagreements in a political party. It's not the first time that sections of the party will believe that things ought to be done a certain way. And if we've lived in this country all this while and we've seen these examples of the past, we've seen the recent example of the MPP. So what are we on about?
Look, we all have tangents of the basics.
I'm saying
probity, accountability, integrity.
Look, rhetoric, okay, is free. Anybody can say what they want in a political party. But the collective interests of the group must bind everybody. And so everything we do must be geared towards advancing the cause of the party. So people within the party, whether they are founders or members or ordinary supporters or leading figures, have the right to comment and make their views known about the party. That in itself does not mean that the party is in disarray or is in tatters. I belong to the party too, so I'm aware that at various levels of the party, things are being done to ensure reorganization. We just finished with our branch elections. As I speak to you, nomination forms have been picked by various individuals who have expressed interest in contesting the constituency positions available in the party. When that is done, we'll move on to regional elections, then national executive elections. Then we will elect a flag bearer by close of this year, and then we'll be in pole position to contest
but
the
your
election
says,
and rest it.
Your party constitution
rest power
says
from
when you are in opposition, you do that election of flag bearer.
That is correct.
2 years ahead.
That is correct.
So you are behind schedule.
No, we are not. We are not. The 2 years will elapse on December 31st, 2017. I'm aware that plans are underway to ensure that we meet that obligation as stated in our.
Let's talk about the president. He was at the London School of Business, and he was talking about the oil resources and how it should be used, industrialization and everything. I'm sure you heard about it. Free SHS was topical in that particular matter. I remember when the project was about to be kickstarted, the Heritage Fund was mentioned, some 3.5 billion. You raised a red flag about it. The process has been fraught with some difficulty. Your party has consistently said that they are going about it in a wrong way. The president says he's optimistic that this is the right way to go. What do you say?
You see, rhetoric again. And when people speak like that, you ought to examine the numbers. That is how you find out whether they are telling the truth or not. What it simply means is that up to date, they are not able to look for, if you like, a sustainable source of funding for this program. They are implementing a program that has a huge financial outlay. Last year alone, or better still, this year alone, if you look at the budget statement that the Minister of Finance presented, they need something in the region of 1.6 billion Ghana cedis to finance just the first years who are currently under the program, and then those who will come in September this year. Our entire oil proceeds from 2016 was 711 million Ghana cedis. Indeed, we had projected to get about 1.4 billion, but fluctuations in the price ensured that we got 711 million Ghana cedis.
He said we're not doing enough to industrialize.
No, I beg your pardon. I'm not sure that in 2017 we got anything significantly different from that figure. So even if all that money was poured into free SHS, it would be insufficient to take care of the expenses of the first year students alone. The projections don't show that we are going to double oil production anytime soon.
He says if we industrialize,
you see, why if we don't send raw products and we refine them? That is rhetoric. Nobody has put a gun to the president's head not to refine raw products and send them out before starting this program. So it is not the rhetoric and mere repetition of platitudes that resolves the problem. I am examining the numbers. What is the basis for the confidence that the president wants us to have in him? That merely because he has mentioned oil, that is the panacea to the problem of funding. Look, in any event, the oil revenue that we generate, its disbursement is regulated by law, the Petroleum Management Revenue Act, or law, if you like. It says that every year 70% of it should go into what they call the annual budget funding amount.
Absolutely.
You cannot dedicate all that money to just one expenditure item, because there are competing demands in various sections of the economy that need to be developed. The rest go into a heritage fund, and then the other goes into a stabilization fund.
That's true.
Both funds are regulated by law. The heritage fund cannot be touched. The stabilization fund is also regulated by law in terms of how it ought to be dispersed. So if you put confidence in what the president has said, you will be left disappointed. First of all, the money would not be sufficient to take care of the about 2 to 3 billion Ghana cedis that will be required annually if all three cohorts were to be admitted.
Has the president or the government not proven by this first stroke of students that they are able to
there are
perform?
Significant problems. Look, I am not happy.
They acknowledge them. They say they have.
Yeah, but you see, I don't know why you accept this level of mediocrity. A government is going to implement a program. It is fully aware that there will be serious challenges that will undermine the quality of education that our children ought to have. Look, when you send your child to school, you don't do that out of fun. You expect that a certain quality will be imparted to him in terms of the instruction and tuition that he's receiving, so that when he grows, he will be able to make a meaningful life for himself and contribute towards national development. We've sent children to school, and because the monies we have are not sufficient, they have been condemned to squalor and are living in horrible conditions. In the not too distant past, they were afflicted by horrible diseases. Some of them have come home with bed bags. We've seen them lie under trees. We've seen them sit on gallons and cement blocks to receive instruction. We've seen them crowded in examination halls, such that the quality and integrity of that exam is severely compromised. And these are children who have to compete with their colleagues everywhere else in the world. There are places in this world where you go and find 10 students sitting in a class. Here we've pushed about 80 students to sit in one classroom, and we are happy and applauding
it didn't start today.
Yes, but if it didn't start today, any government that comes to exacerbate that problem needs to be condemned and not applauded. That is why we told them that a gradualist approach was the way to go, so that by the time that you implement it fully, you will be in a position in terms of resources, in terms of logistics, to cater for the demand that will be created. And I'm telling you that don't place any measure of confidence in what the president is saying. Because if you examine the numbers, they don't back the claim that he is making. The amount of money we get from oil, even if we were to put all of it into funding free SHS, will not be sufficient to take care of all three cohorts. The second point, Johnny, is that education in Ghana is not restricted to the SHS level alone. Indeed, there are about 4 million children in basic school, as I speak to you.
That's correct.
Who also need to be funded. There are tens of thousands of Ghanaian youth in the universities, in polytechnics and other tertiary institutions who also require funding.
Get Fund will take care of them.
Get Fund gets approximately 750 million Ghana cedis every year. To make matters worse for Get Fund, they have actually capped it. So not all that money goes. After the capping, they've done something they call realignment. So they are going to use get fund money to go and pay teacher training allowances. So that is how come till date they are unable to build even a 3-unit classroom block anywhere on any campus in this country. So if you examine the figures and the facts, it does not match what they are saying. All they are doing is mongering hope. You understand? Using rhetoric and platitudes to assuage Ghanaians. But they are doing great harm to our educational system because of the lack of preparedness
what do you say to the fact that the NDC is being pessimistic?
How it been? Look, we've managed this country not too long ago.
Looking at the free SHS.
No, we've managed this country not too long ago.
Right.
You recall that on many campaign points that they made, we cautioned that the things they were saying cannot be matched with the reality on the ground. When they went screaming, one district, one factory, we are almost 18 months into the administration and not a single factory has been built. Only last week or so, they were applauding themselves for signing an agreement with a Chinese bank. Not that they were cutting short or commissioning a completed project. So they were applauding the signing of agreements. Meanwhile, there are several agreements gathering dust on various shelves in ministries, departments, and agencies. They came touting one district, one dam. One village, one dam. Right. 18 months into the administration. Show me where a single dam has been dug.
We're told that plans are
far advanced now. You have 4 years to build thousands of dams. 18 months down the line, you've not even built one, and you're telling me about plans. When the president went to a Kumfi and said that 51 factories would have been constructed or at least started by November of last year, what went into that pronouncement? Why did the president say that when he was not sure of where money was going to come from? If you relate this to what other government officials have said, you get the impression of a government that was clearly not prepared. They simply rolled out promises to the electorate. They had absolutely no idea or inkling how they were going to finance those projects. They come into power and they are scrambling all over the place and making claims that are even inconsistent with the reality of the ground.
They've raised a 2 billion euro bond recently.
Well, first of all,
is that an achievement?
First of all,
where they get some money to do something.
First of all, that also defeats one more campaign pledge, that they were going to harness domestic resources to finance our development, that they were not going to borrow.
But the money is here regardless.
I beg your pardon. First of all, that money will be pumped into paying existing debts.
Okay.
And $750 million out of it, they say, will be used to finance the budget. That is euphemism, a euphemism for consumption. First of all, it's not the first time that Eurobonds have been raised in this country. When we were in power, we raised about 3 or 4 Eurobonds.
At what rate?
It doesn't matter the rate. Look,
the rate doesn't matter.
I beg your pardon. In 2013, we raised $1 billion at 7.8% coupon rate. It is only 0.02% lower than what they've done. It is an insignificant difference. So, in any event, Cote d'Ivoire, at the same time that they were on the bond market, raising 2 billion, Cote d'Ivoire raised 2.1 billion at 6% coupon rate. Even Senegal has done it recently at a much lower coupon rate. So it's not clear what they are touting. Indeed, what they are only celebrating is borrowing, the very thing that they say they will not do. Have you also asked the implication of that on our debt stock? Today, our debt stock,
Ghana beyond aid, it's a mirage.
Well, Ghana beyond aid, and you've gone to sign an agreement with the Chinese company to give you aid to build factories. Ghana beyond aid, and you've gone cap in hand begging investors to buy your bond so that you have money to develop your country. And you are telling me about Ghana beyond aid. Okay. So please, the sloganeering of this government must not get anybody to be excited about them until we see the development they promised, until we see the things that they said they would do take off. We need to be cautious when they go and speak. So in a nutshell, oil revenue to the uninitiated may sound like a massive windfall that government will use to finance something, but the figures, when you go into them, show that it is not sufficient to do what they are saying. So perhaps the president and his team should come to the table with more sustainable sources of funding for this program and convince the Ghanaian public why we should still have confidence in them after saying all those things in opposition and failing to do them once they've had power over the last 18 months.
Bobo, so you're commandeering slogans.
Interesting.
And nothing is happening.
The free SHS is not happening.
And the figures are
Johnny,
not figures are not helping.
The free SHS has it not been implemented?
Do we have a plan? Do we have a plan for the second batch?
Are the children not in school? I'm asking you.
I don't answer questions, I only ask them.
we're having a conversation.
Yes,
So
I don't answer questions.
It's a give and take situation.
No, me, I don't. You can ask Felix a question, but not me.
You see, when we say that naysayers, okay, he's demonstrated it clearly. Now, I hear people talk of quality, that the implementation of the free SHS is going to impact on quality.
Is that not
education.
true?
You see, what is the free SHS? It's a government scholarship. The content of the education hasn't changed. The teachers who teach the subject haven't changed.
But then hold on for me. But then so if the children will have to use a dining hall as a classroom, they arrange the chairs to eat, they finish, they clean up the place, and then they go back to sit, they would have lost some contact hours.
See,
that's quality.
You see,
gone down.
When we use outliers, okay, extreme situations to condemn the policy.
Okay.
That's the kind of things that we want to sell to the Ghanaian people. But look, Johnny, 90,000 more. Okay, 90,000 more is what has created the so-called doom that he painted here. 90,000 more who would ordinarily have dropped off, who based on the implementation of this program have had to stay in school, is the additional number that is creating the doomsday for Ghana's education. I don't get it.
His concerns genuine.
Do they sound genuine to you?
No, you tell me.
They are not.
It says look at the figures.
You see,
you know that
that's what I'm saying. That you see, yes, there are challenges. We've had issues with infrastructure in our educational space for the longest. But is the alternative to keep them out or get the program running and solve some of the problems as we go along? You see, he says the president is only speaking rhetoric. Earlier on, before he came, I indicated to you that, look, government has a pot that is contained of X amount. You choose how you deploy those resources.
And he says all that resource put together is not able to fund the thing.
Total government revenue is 700 million.
All what you earn from oil, you can fund it with it.
I don't have a problem.
Because in the natural fact, you have to even make some deductions for some other sectors.
I don't. You see, Johnny, you don't seem to get the argument.
No, you tell me. Those are. I'm just putting the questions that he raised.
Total government revenue per year includes taxes,
right?
Revenue from our resources, including oil. It will come into a pot that the Minister of Finance does a budget on and deploy those funds based on the budget. And JHS or free SHS is costing X amount. You say we can't fund it. But that because the president had made reference to use of some of the oil proceeds to fund the free SHS, that means he's speaking rhetoric. I don't get it. We have X amount of money. Total revenue for 2017, I believe, was about 42 billion. So if free SHS cost us 1.7, this country cannot afford to pay for that from the 40 or 42. So let them tickle themselves, like I said. But the people who are benefiting from the program, who leave my constituency and go to school every day, go and ask them. So the president is what? Speaking rhetoric, and he is not aware that the people of Ghana are going to feel whether he is actually executing the promise or not. Is that what they are saying? Look, you say we go and beg the Chinese to come and give us money to do what? Is it free? It's a commercial transaction.
But you said you won't borrow.
Who said we won't borrow?
The vice president.
He did not say so.
What did he say?
Look, the vice president was clear that reckless borrowing, like they were doing,
of
course, there's money in this country.
So why go out then under the mantra of Ghana beyond aid?
This Chinese contract that was signed, okay, is an arrangement. If you recall, last year when the vice president went to China and came back, China Exim and then Ghana Association of Ghana Industries, okay, have gone into an arrangement to provide AGI with the support of some 3 or 4 banks who participated on to lend $2 billion to support the One District, One Factory initiative. Now it's taken a while to fine-tune the details. That has been done, and the funds are going to come following the execution of the agreement. Do we have a problem with that arrangement? Private sector
that you're borrowing. That's a concern.
You see, it's not a government debt.
That you are borrowing, Chinese, and that the repercussions years down the lane.
The Chinese arrangement is not a government debt.
So what is it?
I indicated to
it's
you
leverage.
That AGI, okay, Association of Ghana Industries, and the China Exim,
okay,
is what is doing this arrangement.
Wrap up for me.
So you see, we talk, they say it's cheap, okay, and of course, I mean, if
yours or his?
His.
Okay.
If you're in opposition, it's easy to speak the way you're going about today. But the fact still remains that, for instance, this Euro bond that was contracted only last week.
So there's no news.
What do you mean by it's no news?
It's been done before.
Absolutely.
So it's no news.
And so we shouldn't inform the people of Ghana that we've gone to contract an Euro bond.
You are touting it as an
billion.
achievement. It says it's no news.
Why is it being touted as an achievement? We're saying that the cost at which we borrow is significantly lower than what we've done in the past. There are country risk profile that is associated with every country. So at the time that you went to borrow at 9.25, other countries were doing less.
Okay.
So if we've done 7.2 and we are informing the people of Ghana that, look, in spite of all the challenges that our economy has experienced in the past, this bond that we issued was oversubscribed by 3 times. In fact, the people who put up bid for in excess of 8 billion, but government was prepared to take only 2 because that is what we had sought approval to do. Okay, and these are going to pay off in part expensive debt that you contracted. Now, if we do not reprofile those expensive debts that you contracted, what it means was that over and above the 40% that we use annually to service the debt, we're going to use more.
So you borrow to pay debt and then we still owe. Is that it?
You see, of course we owe as a country. Our debt cannot be repaid in 1 year or 18 months. It will take time. They have maturing time frames associated with all the facilities that we contract.
Okay, I thank you.
But you see, when you are managing an economy, I'm glad that he says,
to move on.
Oh, Johnny, it's important that he says that they just left government only a few months ago. And we all living in this country experience the nature with which they manage this economy. Prior to he coming, I was making reference to the Bank of Ghana transaction,
right,
where they contracted to award $1 billion contract to this SIPT or whatever the company's name is, for a program that has been implemented for way less. I've heard some of them argue that what has been done that cost $4 million is only $4 million is only phase 1, and that phase 2 and 3 are going to be rolled out. Now, if phase 1 cost $4 million, let's just say that the 3 phases even cost $100 million. And there's no way that any of the rollout of the additional phases is going to exceed that amount. In fact, nowhere close to even 100 million.
How do you know that?
Clear. A huge chunk of the work has been done in phase 1.
Okay.
What is outstanding are only minor additions.
Right. There was a tweet earlier by Gabi Otredak, which says one government signs a contract just before leaving office for a mobile money integration system for $1.2 billion. A new government comes in, scandalized, reviews the whole thing, finds a basis to undo it, and gets the same thing done for 4.5 million. This is Ghana under NDC and under NPP. Mobile money interoperability comes with a photograph of 3 special people: John Mahama, the former finance minister, Felix.
Well, Gabi has been peddling a lot of falsehood.
But these figures, I'm sure you see these figures.
Gabi has been peddling a lot of falsehood. You
let's
know,
not look at Gabi.
No. You mentioned Gabi's name. I don't know why you want to absorb him. No. Gabi is the nephew of the president of Ghana.
Felix, hold on.
No, there's nothing to hold on.
Felix, hold on.
Why did you mention his name?
Hold on. I'm just saying that this is a tweet I saw.
Yes, so you mentioned it. So it must be the subject of discussion.
Let's not discuss the individual.
No.
Let's discuss
the individual must be discussed. He's going to put the picture of 3 individuals, right? He's going to put the picture of 3 individuals. As of those individuals, blood doesn't flow through their veins. Their image and credibility does not need to be protected, but Gabi's must be protected.
No, I'm
saying he's
not protecting his image.
Yeah, so once you didn't have a problem,
right,
putting out his tweets and indicating that he's posted people's pictures. You shouldn't have a problem. His name is mentioned.
I take it back.
Don't take it back. I'm saying that I'm going to speak to the substance of the matter.
So let's speak to the substance.
I'm saying that Gabi and the vice president and the rest of them talking this way are peddling falsehood. It is one of 2 things. Either they don't understand what they are talking about, or they are being deliberately mischievous. Fact. The Bank of Ghana, and definitely the government of Ghana has not paid 4.6 billion to anybody to do mobile money interoperability. That's the point I'm making. The Bank of Ghana is an independent entity. Indeed, the law. What is funny? You are a parliamentarian. Go and check the Bank of Ghana Act. The law, which was amended in 2016 or I think 2017, 2002, Section 2, says that they are not subject to the direction of any authority. You understand what I'm making? What that means is that you don't need the instructions of government to undertake the activities. So the Bank of Ghana, on their own volition, engaged an entity to do more than just mobile money interoperability. That is a falsehood that the Vice President, Gabi, and everybody else in the MPP is peddling. They create the impression that agreement was just so that you can send mobile money across networks. It is false. What the Bank of Ghana contracted that entity to do was to do a comprehensive payment system for Ghana, including interbank interoperability, so that checks can be cashed, so that you can do payments abroad. No, that's not what Gibbs does. If Gibbs does it, why did you have to do another one for mobile money interoperability? So you don't understand.
It's relative to the banking that I'm saying that Gibbs does that.
You have your take.
I'm saying that it is false if they tell you that money went into just mobile money interoperability.
Okay.
Again, the government of Ghana or the Bank of Ghana was not going to pay a dime. What they have done rather is that they're going to take government money to give to an entity, $4 million, to do something that the government of Ghana was not going to pay a dime for, because the person who sets up the system, after he finances, he was going to recoup it through tariff and charges that were not going to be higher than what are currently being paid. When you send your mobile money,
they are rather
taking government money and put it into a project that was going to be executed on a much larger scale without government adding a penny.
So then what was holding the NDC from launching and inaugurating and making the system?
But the thing was ongoing when they came to power and abrogated it. In fact, because of that, the people have taken the government of Ghana to international arbitration in London. Indeed, there's an IOCO draft report in this matter. IOCO looked into it. They didn't make any adverse finding. Do you believe that the MPP that hankers after such triviality would have sat down for 2 years and done nothing if indeed there was any wrongdoing in this matter? IOCO has looked into the thing. They've given the thing a clean bill of health. So how then does the Vice President and Gabi and everybody else in the MPP come and create the impression that something wrong had been done? They are just peddling falsehood. what they want to do is to deceive the public into thinking that something has happened that actually has not happened. So I beg you,
what do they stand to gain from
propaganda? You know, they are fixated. They have an unholy fixation with using falsehood to taint the NDC as corrupt, so that when they go to elections and the horrible performance they are putting up comes for scrutiny, people overlook that and go and vote for them anyway. It is an unholy obsession with lies and propaganda. That is what they are about. Weren't we here when we came to sit here with my brother to talk about our Mary? Aren't you intrigued that 8 months after an MPP parliamentary committee looked into the matter, they are unable to produce any report? Look, let me tell you on authority that there is an opinion from the Attorney General in which he says that there's nothing wrong with their Mary deal. And yet the same Gabi, I'm telling you, I can give it to you if you want. The same Gabi and Dr. Baumia were shouting from the rooftops that their Mary deal was corrupt. I am telling you today that the Attorney General says there's nothing wrong with it. Indeed, the Energy Minister wrote to her to seek her opinion because he had stopped payments to Mary. The Attorney General has told him to resume payments because it is illegal for him to do so. And that if the people were to go to arbitration, will be found wanting. So they make these noises on platforms, and yet when push comes to shove, they are found wanting. I am challenging them today. Let them make the Yoko report into the thing public. This interoperability thing. If they are confident that what they are saying is true, and let them tell the world whether what they have done is what was going to be done by the Bank of Ghana. So that poster you see is nothing more than the product of the unholy obsession that they have with peddling falsehood in order to look good. But there are things that he said about free exercise that I need to do.
No, let him have a bite.
Oh no, but he had a bite on this one. He
has not had a bite. I cut him
but you need to allocate the time fairly.
No, hold on, Felix. You have spoken for 4 minutes.
Oh, Johnny.
Allow Bobo to have a bite of
when I spoke about free exercise, he came back to it, but he said things. Then he delved into the interoperability thing. You hadn't even tabled it.
Oh, but you came late.
So it is only fair that I correct a misimpression that he created.
Allow him so that we don't confuse our viewers. Allow him to have a bite on interoperability.
But he started it. He spoke about it.
He jumped onto it. I want
to anyway, fine.
We make statements that some persons are fixated on some unholy fixation.
But that is what it is. Otherwise, why do you bring President Mohammed's picture?
Allow him to.
In what way is he related to this? That is what it is.
Allow him.
They are paying people at the Plaza House to put out these falsehoods.
Allow him,
yes.
Felix.
And it must be spoken to.
Bank of Ghana is an independent entity.
Is that not fact?
And that they went to engage a private company to do this. Bank of Ghana doesn't report to anybody.
They don't. But you did the act. You are a parliamentary. You passed the law. Then you need to question.
Please.
Let me. Is it factual
I come to
that the Bank of Ghana are independent or not?
No, but that's not in doubt.
So what is he on about? What is he saying then?
You see,
Bobo,
is it not a fact that a contract was awarded to this entity for $1.2 billion?
He says that was not the only thing they're doing.
Let's take it one after the other.
First of all, they said it was $4.6 billion initially. Now they have revised it.
That's CD.
No, that was the first allegation. That was the first allegation you made. Now you've recalled because you've been found out.
But we all live in this country. We heard of this thing in 2016.
Why are you saying that?
But you know what?
Who debunked that? Time is up. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
It is not the contract that is in question. So what is in question are your claims about the contract. The fact that there's a contract doesn't mean that one is saying.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. Felix Kwachiofosu is a former deputy minister for communications and he speaks on behalf of the NDC. He's been our guest this morning, and Andrew Ejapamesa is a lawyer and the MPP's MP for 2nd D in the Western Region. Gentlemen, I thank you for your Monday morning. I'm grateful.